I found this next story unbelievable because it really highlights how there's still a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism in the world. So from the Daily Beast, quote, "A French village is dismissing calls to change the name of its hamlet," which I think is like a town, or as I say, a village, from La Mort aux Juifs, that's my French impression, you like it? Or Death to the Jews. WTF, dog. What the fuck is happening here? There's a town in France with the literal name Death to the Jews. How does that happen? How does that happen? That's like going to Mississippi and it's like death to the N-words, right? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And they're dismissing calls to change the name. How do you can't dismiss that? That's not allowed. There's no two positions on this issue. Oh my God. So they continue, quote, "Earlier this year, residents of a Spanish town voted to change their name of Castrillo Mata or Castrillo Kill Jews, but this appears less likely to occur in France." So they're saying, well, there was another place named Kill the Jews in Spain, and they changed it. But in France, they're like, no, we're sticking by our principles. We would like to keep the town name that. Now, what argument are they making? The deputy mayor, who has jurisdiction over that French village, says, quote, "It's ridiculous. The name has always existed. No one has anything against the Jews." Of course. Of course? Well, look, we just named the town Kill the Jews. That doesn't mean we want to kill the Jews. We love Jews. We love them, but it's just a name, it's tradition. Get over it. There are no two interpretations of the term kill the Jew. That is a very straightforward thing. Very straightforward command. It's not like, hey, to somebody from this specific tribal region of Aboriginal Papua New Guinea, they view kill the Jew. It actually stands for tea and crumpets. So it's fine to name it that because the second meaning is tea and crumpets. No, it means kill the Jews. God, how have we gotten to this point? Now understand something, man. There's a very important reason why I'm doing this segment. Anti-Semitism is alive and well, okay? Understand that. And it's not just this. This is one story, but there was not that this is like a little story. That is a big deal. But there was another story recently. I forget who did the poll. They did this massive poll and from people in all different countries around the world. And they asked them, they had a certain number of questions about Jews, and they were saying, answer yes or no. And there was a certain number that if you get them, you're basically considered an anti-Semite. Now, it's certainly open to interpretation as to, how good the questions were and if something actually makes you anti-Semitic. But at the same time, I would argue that it was a pretty solid criteria. You can disagree with parts of it, but to just dismiss it wholly, I think is silly, okay? So, and the numbers showed that an unbelievable number of people in the world are still anti-Semitic, and an unbelievable number of people in the world have never heard of the Holocaust, and an unbelievable number of people in the world have never even met a Jewish person. Look, I grew up, and I'm still in Westchester County outside of New York City, and my whole life I've been surrounded by all different cultures and religions and ethnicities and a lot of Jewish people here too, so I've been best friends with them my whole lives. I love how I sound like the awkward guy who's like, some of my best friends are black. They are. But I'm serious. I've actually been around all these different groups my entire life. So to me, to not be around a mix of people is weird, right? And for a guy who's in that bubble, the multicultural bubble, to see people outside of it, I go, oh, wow, right. I need to stop thinking everybody thinks like me, because they don't. They don't think like, oh, it's a human being here, whether it's a black person, a Jewish person, a Hispanic person, a different culture, whatever. It's like, oh, this is a person. They don't see that. They go, oh, damn Jews, they run the world and they're killing people and blame the Jews about everything ever. Now, in conclusion, understand, man, we've talked about Israel-Palestine endlessly, and that's a totally separate question. Okay, you guys know my position. I think the right-wing government. I don't agree with Hamas. Hamas, I think, is terrible in Gaza and in the Palestinian territories. I don't like them. I wish they weren't in power, right? But with that being said, I think the Likud party and the right-wing government of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, he's a terrible war hawk. He's the George Bush of the Middle East. Okay, so on the issue of Israel-Palestine, I think Israel is largely acting wrongly here. Obviously, Hamas shouldn't be firing rockets, that's a given, but at the same time, I don't like the offensive of the Israeli government and how many civilians they've killed and what they've done. So that's a separate question, and I'm in favor of a two-state solution. I'm in favor of going back to at least the 1967 borders, maybe the 1947 borders, and I think Palestine should have UN recognition too and should get statehood. Israel is blocking that. That's on the record. The UN has acknowledged that. Them and the U.S. block it every time they try to actually establish a Palestinian state. So that's a separate question, and I think that, Israel is largely acting wrongly in that on that question. But on the issue of anti-Semitism, that's undeniable, right? For a separate issue, anti-Semitism is alive and well. So for people who deny that anti-Semitism exists, open your eyes, man. Or maybe you should take a trip to the lovely French village of Kill the Jews.